Poor Lalo. He made the terrible mistake in thinking there's no such thing as face armor and only body armor. But, you know, face armor, it just has a different name. It's called plot armor. Hey guys, I'm Jax and this is my spoiler review for Better Call Saul Season 6, Episode 8. After 57 episodes and 5.5 seasons of perfect prequel storytelling, this unfortunately, and this pains me, it pains me to say this, but this is the first episode in the whole show's run where I kind of feel like it suffered from that prequelitis kind of situation of just predictable, inevitable, but unsatisfying storytelling where it's just like, well, I know what has to happen because, you know, the people from Breaking Bad, they survive, and the people who aren't in Breaking Bad can't survive. So any situation where, you know, one character has the upper hand on another character, and it's a final season, well, I know it has to do a little cheeky switcheroo. And I also didn't forget that incredibly uninspired scene in the first part where Gus is like, I'll just put this gun here for some convenient storytelling later. Hopefully I don't have to use it. But I will have to use it because apparently we couldn't think of any other interesting way to get rid of Lalo. It's just, you know, he put a gun there earlier, then he uses the gun. Reminds me of a certain, you know, finale that was the only episode of a show I didn't love, but maybe that's just me. So, straight off the bat, I'm just gonna say, Better Call Saul is an amazing TV series and everything that works for the rest of the season and all the shows and all the episodes, it works here. The acting, the cinematography, the sound, the music, everything, every single thing in the show works so well. The craft is at such a high level, it's hard not to kind of just be swept up in it. But I feel like for so much of this show, it has kind of utilized the fact it's a prequel so cleverly, and it's subverted expectations while doing things that make sense in like the lore of Breaking Bad. And it's able to kind of craft things that aren't necessarily kind of shocking, kind of know where most of the characters are ending up. But it's this slow burn, this character-driven thing that slowly morphs these characters and like informs who they are. And there's just so much kind of subtle detail at work. And then sometimes it just goes, hey, you want to see a season where we just see how the super lab is built? And I started off by being like, no, not really, because we know it gets built, like who cares? But then by the end of season 4, I love the Germans. I love that plot. I love what it does for Mike as a character. There's just so much working for it as a prequel series. You know, we see Hector fall and we see how Hector goes into the chair and we see how Gus brings him back from the verge of death to that point he's in Breaking Bad, just so he can suffer more, and it, you know, informs his character, and it's a prequel-y thing. You want to see the origin of how he gets in the chair? You know, so it has its cake and eats it. But unfortunately, I really do think this episode, with the demise of Lalo, that it just kind of didn't work for me. It didn't gel in that satisfying way. We're all kind of headed to this inevitable climax. I found it bizarrely unsatisfying and just really disappointing, just kind of on a story level. Like, Lalo has been such a fantastic villain, and to kind of have him go out like this, there was no point in this whole sequence. As soon as he was in the lab with Gus, there was no point in the sequence where I wasn't just like, he's going to go down there, he's got the upper hand, he's got the camera, he thinks everything's gone well, and then due to kind of, you know, a convenient plot kind of device, he kicks the thing, the lights go out, Gus obviously gets the gun. There's like a point in the scene where it pans down to show the gun. It's like, yeah, I know, the gun that you just so clearly put there. And I really thought that would be used as kind of a, you think it's going to go this way? But no, this is Better Call Saul, we're going this way. But no, Gus just kills him with the gun he put there, just randomly. It just, not randomly, like, you know, he's setting it up for Lalo in case Lalo comes, in case something goes wrong. But it just feels so convenient that he's able to get to the gun's there, he takes a couple of shots in the dark, and he kills Lalo. Because he has to kill Lalo, because Lalo can't survive, and Gus has to survive. Like, the whole episode just kind of reeked of me feeling like I knew what had to happen, because certain characters have to survive, Gus can't die from Lalo has to die. It just felt so kind of uninspired, and kind of a bit kind of, I don't know, it just really didn't work for me in the way where I think Lalo has been built up to be such a fantastic, interesting, rich character. This smiling assassin. And to have him go out like this, it just kind of didn't give me the emotional kind of satisfaction and closure that I really wanted. And the only stuff that works in this episode for me is all the stuff with just the tragedy of Howard. And there is a slightly extra layer of tragedy with Lalo going out so quickly after killing Howard. It really makes it feel even more unnecessary than it already did, which just even hurts even more. And like the burial scene at the end, it's beautiful, it's tragic, it breaks the heart, but all that stuff's kind of built up from what episode 7 did. And I do think comparing it to episode 7's tragic death of Howard and kind of how that works on almost every single level, if not every single level, compared to how this doesn't really, and it kind of falls short a bit. Like with Howard, there's such a brilliant kind of slow build all season. And we get to this point with Howard where he has this final confrontation with Jimmy and Kimmy, and they're having this big scene and everything is firing on all cylinders. Everything feels so emotionally rich. And then suddenly Howard accidentally kind of steps into their lives in this moment where the lawyer side of life and the crime side of life that's been so separate for the whole show finally converge. And Howard is the tragic subject of wrong place, wrong time, but also Lalo probably overheard him, spouting about how he's going to spend the rest of his time bringing down his lawyers. And so it feels inevitable, but so shocking and out of the blue, essentially. And he dies. There's brilliant kind of cinematography, little touches, and like character moments where like the flame flickers. There's just so much going on in that scene that works so well. It's kind of painful that Jimmy and Kimmy, brought down Howard, and then he's brought down even further. But they kind of set him up with, like in this episode, they go, well, he's going to commit suicide. We put the cocaine on the head. Everyone's going to think he's just gone. That's what you were setting up, essentially. This is just taking that extra level. And so much of it works to be so horrible, but it feels so satisfying in kind of the way the story is built up to this point. Whereas with Lalo, it just feels too convenient. I loved how everything's building up throughout the episode. We get kind of a fake out where Lalo's like, you go and try and kill Gus. And I was like, Kim, kill Gus? Obviously that can't work, but how does he think that's gonna play out? There's clearly people watching the house, like, how is this gonna work? And then suddenly you realize, oh no, he's doing it to clear out the lab so he can get into the super lab, get the info, and hide out until Gus comes back, and it all works out for him. Gus figures out that something's wrong. He's like, Saul changed Lalo's mind? No, I don't think so. And we get, Gus doing all his acting stuff, and he goes to the lab. It all builds up. But just in that final moments where he shoots all 4 people and he's got Gus and he's like, ha, I won, mustache 12 villain monologue where he's all happy and stuff. It just felt completely empty and just, I don't know, I really didn't enjoy how it just kind of played out in this way. It just felt like there's no other way this can go. This feels like, and I think maybe it's going to really, really work for some people where he gets this final, I'm Lalo and everything's so good, I'm the best. But it just felt like no moment in that scene did I go, I wonder what's going to happen. It just felt so like, so much of Lalo in the first half of season 6 was him on his little German adventure, running about in the German Alps being like, the air, it's so fresh, I love it. Or just not being in the season. So I was really hoping that was going to be, Kimmy and Jimmy versus Howard, part 1. Part 2, Lalo versus everybody. Or something. I don't know. I just really wanted more. I expected more. The actor feels kind of sadly wasted in this last season. I think season 5, he's the highlight of the show at that point. And it felt like it was building up to something. But now I feel like with this episode, it feels like they're trying to push him aside so they can get to like, Jimmy and Kimmy and all that stuff. And I understand that. But I just kind of expected them to kind of thread him throughout the storyline and the plot more. Only thing I can really think the reason they want to get rid of him so quickly is that he's kind of like setting up more Gene timeline, more Breaking Bad timeline stuff in the last couple of episodes than I was expecting. I really kind of thought we'd have 3 episodes with Lalo, like at least 3. There was a moment towards the end of the episode where they're about to bury the bodies and they're all there and I'm like, the South Wall theory, it's actually going to come true. Like, so funny when fan theories get a life of their own and everyone's like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. And then there was this extra theory that I heard, which was really nice, where he's going to be put in the South Wall, because, he keeps going on about, South Wall, what's going on with that South Wall, Gus? So to be buried there feels very fitting, but also being buried there alive, I really liked, and the idea that Gus is like feeding him or keeping him barely alive, and then he actually dies via fire when they burn the lab down years later during Breaking Bad. I liked all of that stuff, and not to say that that makes this any worse, or, I didn't like this because of that, but it's just funny towards the end when they're both lying there, and I'm like, oh my god! He's literally going to be buried in the South Wall. And then they're like, no, just in the ground. No South Wall for you. No theory for you, good sir. Which is fine. It just feels like if you don't have all that Howard stuff kind of going on in the background underneath, like that last scene where they're burying them both, I have no emotional feeling to Lalo at this point. He's been my favorite villain in the whole show. And I don't want to say he's been done dirty, because it's kind of satisfying on like a character level to have him die being all like, I've won, I won, la la la, and then to kind of just go out like a punk, just getting shot a couple of times, the last couple of seconds where he's laughing and splattering in blood, really kind of horrible and fitting for that monster of a character. I just wanted more of him. Like, I'm being a little greedy viewer here, but I just wanted more. I wanted more Lalo shot up in my veins. And I just feel like in this episode, I felt so much of it. Like, the early stuff is like, you know, like there's been so much speculation between part 1 and part 2. Why does he need them as lawyers? And I was so satisfied to see him see the cockroach go, oh, I can use my lawyer. But his plan wasn't to use him as a lawyer. It was to use him as, like, you know, a fake hitman to get into a situation, you know, to sneak into the lab. And I do like that at first it plays out with, like, what? Lalo's plan is terrible. How does he think this is going to go? Like, is he kidding himself? But then you're like, oh, no, it's a long con. Like, I'm an idiot for thinking that was the plan all along. Which I really, really liked. And then Gus kind of keys in just after we've keyed in. And I really, really enjoy all of that. But I do kind of feel cheated. I'm like, I want more lawyer stuff. Like, I want more Lalo using him as the lawyer. He's now Salamanca's man. So much of season 6 was kind of about that, and that change with, like, you're the guy. What guy? I'm the Salamanca guy. All that stuff. And I kind of wanted one last lawyer hurrah with the Salamancas. I don't know. It's like, obviously, it's like, I'm just complaining about things that didn't happen. But I also think the way this was presented and this played out just felt very, like, uninterestingly inevitable, which is so weird because so much of it is kind of like inevitable in this way, like the way Jimmy's slowly turning into Saul. Like, we know where he ends up, but the way they've been doing it I found is so fascinating and interesting. And I just find with Lalo, because he's there with Gus just can't lose. I found Gus kind of not underwhelming, but just a bit uninteresting as a character at this point, where I'm just like, he's just it's probably ever since he did Nacho dirty. Like, that just really hurt me. I feel like he just became this monster of a monster. Like, he's always been a monster, but just dogging Nacho like that, I've now, like, I don't like watching him anymore. And to see him just kind of walk around being like, oh, you've got me, Lalo, but what you don't know is I've got plot armor. And Lalo makes a joke where he's like, oh, he's got the body armor. Wish they could make body armor for the face. Well, guess what, Lalo? They do make body armor for the face. It's called plot armor, Lalo. It's called plot armor. I hate it. I just hate Gus now. And so when they're having this kind of confrontational moment, I'm not like sitting there the whole time as Lalo's walking around being like, I won more! El Deladio, you're gonna love this little cheeky homemade cam video I've made for you. Oh, I've won, it's the best. I'm not sitting there the whole time being like, but he doesn't know. Gus has a secret little gun for situations like this. You just don't know. Oh, I'm so satisfying to have this kind of twist and turn and, you know, spin, do a 180 for the scene. The whole time I'm just like, but of course Gunn has a little convenient gun, and of course he's going to do some kind of plot contrivance thing, kick the light, sure, it's all dark. Of course Lalo's going to miss him, because he has to miss him. He can't hit him, and of course, you know, he's going to find the gun, and he shoots a couple of bullets, and of course he hits him, and of course he kills him. It just wasn't satisfying. It didn't feel like it, like, subverted expectation, or did anything that kind of shocked or surprised me. The only part of the scene that really worked for me was the fact that Gus kind of goes, let me just buy a little bit more time. And he does a whole big speech to Don Eladio. And I really liked that because he never really got to kind of spit in his face and tell him what he really thinks of him and the Salamancas. It had a really nice symmetry to the way that Nacho's final scene played out, which had that same kind of horrible sense of inevitability. But the way that was building up, it just, that was like the intent. Like halfway through the episode, he goes, I'll die. If that's what I have to do, I'll do. And it was more like, it was a different scene. It was like playing out that horrible suspense of like, surely not. Surely this isn't how it ends. Surely not Nacho, our beloved Nacho. But no, it does go that way in the end, and it's horrible, it's sad, it's tragic. With this, it just feels inevitable in that way where it's just like, well, of course it has to go this way. But I did love his speech. I did love that he got a chance, even though Don Eladio clearly doesn't see that video. Otherwise, his play in Breaking Bad wouldn't work. But I love that he gets to at least get that off his chest. And there's some great acting. I mean, there's not a second of this scene or moment, visual, cinematography, acting, writing, you know, all the filmy thingies. It's all firing on all cylinders. Because of course it is. It's Better Call Saul. It's one of the best made shows of all time, you know, along with Breaking Bad. But I think as my expectations are so high, my expectations for Lalo in his final season, he was kind of on the back burner all of part 1. So part 2, it's going to be Lalo's season! Oh no, he gets taken out like a little punk because he didn't know convenient plot gun there and the plot armor thing. I would be super curious though. Am I the only man? Am I a man standing alone on an island screaming with my guts, oh, it's a prequel, and I didn't like how it was kind of prequel-y for once. Am I alone, or is everyone kind of agreeing here? Did this kind of feel you underwhelmed, unsatisfied? Or no, is this as good as the Howard death, which works on so many million levels. And more importantly, if it does work for you, I would love to know why. I'd love to know your reasoning as to how this kind of satisfyingly concludes Lalo's arc. And I understand how it kind of informs Gus to be kind of more confident in the Gus that we knew. But for Lalo, like, he was essentially our last big bad villain. And I know that there's going to be there's so much more time now for them to do stuff through Breaking Bad. How does Kim's story end? The whole Gene timeline. There's so much other stuff to do now that Largo's gotten rid of so quickly. But he was such a big part of the back half of the show. I just feel like doing him kind of like this. And I'm really afraid of saying doing him dirty, because I think that's kind of unfair to the show and how it's so well crafted for so much of it. I just found it like incomplete in this way where I almost feel like I'm probably not describing it properly. I just think that if you compare what they did with Howard and how tragic and quick and shocking that was, and now how you do with Lalo, it's kind of the same, where you kind of do presume he's going to survive for longer, and suddenly he's taken out. It doesn't have the things where I'm like, oh, but the themes and the ideas and all this and this, oh, the lawyer side of the world and the crime side of the world, they're all converging and everything, wrong place, wrong time, but also that thing he said, and also that time that, Saul said how, but then Kim's like, Howard, and it's just all the things that work so well in crafting that final scene of that episode. And for the next episode to play out like this, feels a bit like, oh shit, Lala's still alive. Oh, we've got so much other stuff to do. Just, Gus kills him, bang. He's done. Just shut up. We're dealing with Saul and stuff. Just don't worry about all that other stuff. We don't have time for that. Could have made time. I just thought he'd be threaded through this rest of the story. I really wanted to see Lalo in the Gene timeline or something crazy like that. Like, I don't know. I just think I had so many ideas of what to do. And not to say any would be better. Of course not. My writing could not even come up to the worst moments in an okay show, let alone a fantastic show. But I still, just as a huge fan of the show and a huge fan of Lalo, I unfortunately have to say this could be one of my least favorite episodes of the whole series. I just felt very underwhelmed, very unsatisfied. And that can happen. Final seasons often have this issue where you wrap and you finish and close a story forever. There's no time for Lalo to be changed or fixed or redeemed or blah, 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 blah. Anytime there's an issue throughout a series, there's always time to fix it later on, if characters are still alive, if they're still going. But a final season, finally concluding elements, events, characters, all those things, it can just feel, like it can leave you feeling a bit, that's not how I wanted it to end. And I don't think Gus killing Lalo isn't how I want it to end. I just think getting there, I just thought would be different. But hey, I would love to know everyone's thoughts, feelings, emotions about this episode, because once again, a big episode. I don't think we're going to get an episode that isn't big, explosive, and crazy, and characters dying, big things happening, all the things of a final season of a great show. But yeah, I'm hoping on a rewatch, because I'm going to do a rewatch throughout the week before the next episode, as I usually do for a show of this caliber. I hope it kind of brings an extra kind of layer to it, like something that I was kind of missing, something that I was like not noticing the first time. But yeah, I would love to know what everyone thought of the first episode of part 2 of Better Call Saul's final season. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'm so sorry if you love Better Call Saul and you're like, stop being angry and mad at the show. You couldn't do better. I know I can't do better. I want it to do better. I want better for it because I love it.